Thanks for listening to this episode of Vietnam Podcast. It's me, your host, Neil Mackay. And before we get started, I have to give a massive thank you to two of our partners who helped make this podcast possible. So if you are in Saigon or you're planning to visit, then please go pay these guys a visit because they help make this podcast possible. Number one, we've been partnering with them for a long time, and they are probably at the moment my favorite craft beer in Saigon, in all of Vietnam. They started in Da Nang, came down to Saigon. They're all over the country now, and at Seven Bridges Brewing. They make some unbelievable beer, but what makes them even better is their focus on the environment. So you can go back and check the episode that we just did there recently, where their server was incredible. I didn't actually get his name, but he was able to explain how they turn their waste products into new beer, they turn it into pizza, they turn it into the spicy sauce. Everything about them is absolutely fantastic. So go check out Seven Bridges. And not only do they make great beer, they make unbelievable pizza with those waste products. But even better, you can buy them by the slice, which if you go and watch that episode, or you've seen it already, or you've heard it already, you'll know that if you buy a pizza on its own there, it's so big, it's going to take up your whole table. So even better, order by the slice. Second of all, the Rabbit Hole Irish Sports Bar. They are very close to my heart. I've been working with these guys for years now. I do my quiz night there every single Tuesday. So if you want to come down and enjoy a quiz night with me at the Rabbit Hole Irish Sports Bar on Pham Viet Chan, then please book your table because we sell out nearly every single week. It's so much fun. You can win massive prizes. You can win a bottle of booze, Jameson's gin or vodka. You can get a sharing platter of cheese or chicken or meat. And then third prize is a beer each. And it's heaps of fun, so come down on a Tuesday night. They have just opened a new location on Chan now. Make sure you check that out. It has the best views in Saigon on the rooftop, overlooking Landmark and the park and everything around there. Really nice breeze at this hot time of year as well. And they even show movies throughout the week on the rooftop as well. And you get a free bag of popcorn with it as well. So please go check out the Rabbit Hole Irish Sports Bar, either in Phu Quoc if you're there, on Chan Now in D2, or on Pham Viet Chan in Binh Tan District, or go and get a beer and a slice of pizza at the Seven Bridges Brewing Company. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I really do appreciate it, and I really hope you enjoy this. Cheers. So how did you end up in Vietnam then? You've been here for 7 years.
Ooh, I think similar to you. I planned to do 6 months, planned to do Southeast Asia, and then never left Vietnam. So unlike any other place I've ever been. It's just sensory overload. But you see it from a different point of view. You're kind of like, I'm home now.
Welcome to a Vietnam podcast with me, your host, Neil Mackay. I've been in Vietnam since 2016, came here for 6 weeks, and it's now been 9 years. I started this podcast in 2019 to share stories of people connected to Vietnam. In this episode, I'm really excited to share the story of someone who has been in Vietnam for 7 years. I've actually been trying to get him on this podcast for over 6 months now. Always love spending time with him, but I've never really gotten to know him, so I'm really excited about this. He's the director of the International Choir and Orchestra. He's a vocal coach, and he is also a fellow Scot like me, and not just that, a fellow Glaswegian, and is from the town over from me, so we have a lot of shared experiences, and I'm a bit worried about how long this episode could go for, because when you put two Scots in a room, there's a lot of talking normally happens. The other thing I'm a little bit worried about is slipping back into my Scottish accent, which is full, thick Scottish accent, and people won't be able to understand a word. But anyway, let's find out how we go. I'm excited to welcome today Craig Haggart to a Vietnam podcast.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Finally,
it's good to have you at last.
Yeah.
What took so long?
I don't like my own voice, I think, is the problem.
Now.
Do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Whenever I do interviews or something and I listen back to my own voice, I'll just put it on mute and see how I look instead.
So I'm one of those strange people, but I think it's because I do what I do and I listen to my own voice so much. I actually don't mind the sound of my own voice, which I think is kind of weird, right? Because most people are like, ugh. Yeah. But what you'll find from this episode and from doing this podcast, and you've already had a little encounter when you took the headphones off earlier. I remember telling this to someone recently. I was like, your voice sounds really sexy with headphones on. And they were like, nah. You're saying my voice doesn't sound sexy anyway? And I was like, well, no, it doesn't. But wait till you hear your voice with headphones on. And as soon as they put the headphones on, they were like, oh, this is amazing.
Just
I don't want to take them off.
sweet talking down the microphone.
Exactly right. You can suddenly, you're like, oh, this sounds really good, really good.
Apparently, when you listen to your voice back, that's how other people hear you. You hear yourself differently.
Mm.
And then when you hear yourself back, that's how other people hear you. So when I found this out, I was like, oh, surprised people put up with it. But
Well, let's start first of all with our shared heritage. We're both Scottish,
we
obviously.
are.
But you're from Lindsay, right?
Kirkintilloch, technically,
Right.
which is, for those that don't know, is the town next to Lindsay that's maybe not as posh as Lindsay.
I was making you sound better there. Right?
I know.
But
I
you
mean,
went to Lindsay Academy.
I did go to Lindsay Academy, yeah.
So if you don't know, if you're from Scotland or Glasgow, as soon as the word academy is attached to the school you went to, it's upper level.
Pretty good.
I didn't go to an academy.
Where did you go?
Thomas Muir.
Oh, yeah.
Just a high school. Thomas Muir High School. Just normal, yeah. So we're quite a difference in age. I'm 42.
Yeah.
But we still did the same shit, like drink
Yeah.
and do all that. What was it like for you growing up in Kirkintilloch?
Do you know, it was great. It was great. We had a really close group of friends, and we had the freedom then, you know, to, as I say, go to the campsies. We'd go to each other's houses. We'd play outside. I'm going to sound like an old fart, but it was before we all had phones and iPads, and we'd go around each other's houses. A friend I met recently from school, when we were kids, we built a tree house in his garden, and it's still there, still going strong, which is quite remarkable. And it was lovely. We all kind of lived close enough to each other, and yes, although it's quite a big town, everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows everyone and everyone's business and what they're doing and where they are. So it felt kind of safe, I guess. And then once we were old enough, I remember I was desperate to go into the city centre myself to get the bus in. And so my dad took me on a trial run. He kind of we went together, but I had to make all the decisions. So I had to choose the right bus to get on, and he would just kind of follow, give the bus the right money and stuff, and then see if I could navigate my way to the cinema, to Buchanan Galleries, and get back in the bus. And I was doing so well until it's time to get the bus home. And next to the bus to Kirkintilloch was the bus to Warsaw. So
Wait, what? It's wildly different.
So
Warsaw
close.
in Poland.
Yes. Yeah, they were just at the stands next to each other. So I was just about to get in a bus to Poland, and my dad hadn't said anything. But I think that was about time he piped up and was like, "This is not the right bus, son."
It'd have been brilliant if he just left you. So he'll figure this out when he gets to Poland.
This is taking a bit longer than it did coming in.
I was just thinking about one. I think maybe the last time we really hung out was when we watched Scotland play at the Euros, which is a couple of years ago now. And we watched it at the Rabbit Hole Irish Sports Bar. And one of the things that was so funny, right? So as Scots, and Scotland as a nation is awful at football. They have been for many, many years. But we have such hopes. We have such hopes that we're going to do better. I mean, I remember all the way back to the 98 World Cup, which was just after you were born. But I remember watching the 98 World Cup. We played Brazil in the first game. We played Norway in the second game, I think. And then we had Morocco in the third game. We needed a draw. And we're so hopeful and optimistic. We got beat 3-0 and, we're out right away. And one of the things I remember is me and you were talking about this game. And we're like, it's the first game of the tournament. And you're so filled with hope and wonder. And you're like, what if we win today? What if we qualify? I mean, Greece won it 20 odd years ago. What if we got to the semi-final? What if we won it? You just never know in football what could happen. We got fucking smashed in the first game, and we got smashed in the second, and the third game was even worse, and we went home immediately, and it was like, we just get our hopes up.
But there is still always that hope.
Yeah.
Even there's a track record of being awful. There is always that in the back of your head is, what if? And in Vietnam, the football times are late, awful times to watch it, that you force yourself. I'm going to watch that game that starts at 2:00 because what if?
Yes. It's the hope that kills you.
It is the hope that kills you.
I just remember our hopefulness right before that game, and I think we let in a goal after about 10 minutes or something, and it just dissolved immediately. I feel that Scottish people, I used an analogy the other day, were like magnets. We repel each other. I've been away from Scotland for over 20 years now. Can count on one hand the number of Scottish people I've met, befriended, hung out with, Really, really not many. And not on purpose, not because I've met them and I don't like them. Just not generally somebody that I hang about with so much. Whereas, we're talking about the rabbit hole Irish sports bar. Irish are the complete opposite. I've travelled all around the world. You always meet groups of Irish. We lived in a shared house in Melbourne. Downstairs, it's a shared house of Irish people. They all meet each other. They know, like, who's your cousin? I'm cousins with blah, blah, blah. And they make a connection. That's why we have Irish bars, because they need somewhere to go. Scottish people, I feel like, are the complete opposite. Do you think that's correct, or is that just my opinion?
There's more of the Irish. There's more Irish than there are Scots. Because whenever I meet a Scottish person, I get quite excited. I want to be
the
their friend.
opposite to me.
And there's just not
Maybe
that.
it's just me. Maybe I'm just a dick. I don't know.
Moved away from
Yeah,
you.
I left for a reason.
And there is, the Irish have got that culture of the Irish bars and the Gaelic football, the Gaelic football. I think there's more opportunities and more of them to kind of be as one. But for the Scots, I don't know. We don't really have we've got a Burns supper.
Purposefully stay away from that.
Well, I think I can see the problem.
Well, yeah, mate, it's me. So, but what I think it boils down to, so I was thinking about this the other day, I think I was talking to someone about it. I think it sadly does come down to football. Because in Ireland, maybe the Republic of Ireland, they don't have that same division, definitely between the North and the South maybe, but in Glasgow especially, it's so divided. And so, not naming any names, but there was a friend of yours that came with us to watch that game. And she did not like me at all because I was a Rangers fan. I'm not even really a Rangers fan. Like, I don't care. I was a season ticket holder when I was younger, and she was a Celtic fan, and I just don't care. Like, I couldn't give a shit. I've met Rangers fans who care, and they try and talk to me like I'm a bigot, or they try and talk to me like I'm into it, and I'm like, I literally don't care. Like, it's not just Celtic fans. I think they're both as bad as each other. But I think that is part of the problem why Scottish people don't come together, because immediately it's what school did you go to, where are you from, what team do you support, all of that.
Blue. I've even had a taxi driver here ask if I'm blue or green, and I don't mind. I don't support either way, but that if you get asked that by a taxi driver in Glasgow, then you've got to make a calculated decision of
Partick Thistle is always the answer. Yeah.
Where am I? Where am I going?
Yeah.
Looking around the taxi for any clues of the right
wearing
answer.
a cross. But this is crazy that you have to think about all of that stuff, right? And so I think I've shared this story before. Well, I've shared it before. I don't know if I've shared it on this podcast. For me, the turning point was I was in New York, and Celtic were playing Dunfermline. They weren't even playing Rangers. They were playing Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup final. And I'm like, I'm 3,000 miles from home. This is awesome. I must have been like 20, 21, 22. I was over 21 because I could drink, so 21, 22. I went on an online forum. This is before Facebook, before all of that stuff. Like, literally, it was like an online forum. And I was like, where can I go watch this game? So somebody told me to go from this bar. Couldn't find it. Found it eventually. I opened the door, and I have a brand new Rangers top on. I was like, I'm in New York. I'm going to go watch it with all these other Scottish people. I'm going to have fun. I got the door open. About that much. And it was just a sea of green and white hoops, which is Celtic. And that Irish guy just took one look at me right at the door, and he went, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." I was like, shit. Closed the door, and I've never walked or ran so fast. I was like, what the hell? And got back on the forum. I was like, why did you send me that bar? And someone was like, whoever told you that tricked you. That's the biggest IRA Republican bar in New York. And I figured out the timing. I just walked in as Dunfermline had scored. They scored the first goal. Celtic ended up winning it because I saw the score later. So I think to myself, thank God I was wearing my Rangers top. Because if I was in civilian clothes, I would have just walked in, ordered a beer, been in the middle of these green and white hoops, and then been like, I'm a Rangers fan. Like, I wouldn't have been able to hide it, and probably gotten stabbed or killed or something like that. 'Cause that is how violent and how serious it is. And I think it's so sad. And that moment for me was pretty much the start of me stopping being a football fan or a Glasgow Rangers fan. I'm a Rangers fan, but
I see it. You can see it much more, and then when you tell people that aren't from Glasgow about it, they can't get their head around it because it seems absolutely mental. But then I've got to say the Scottish people that I've met over here, I think, when you do move to a different country, you have a different mentality, a different mindset, and maybe a different view and how you view people in the world as well. So I don't see too much of it. No, I'm going to stand by that. I don't see too much of it over here.
Don't see too much, but like I mentioned, I met one guy in the Irish hole.
Is that what they call it now?
The rabbit hole Irish sports bar. And fellow Glaswegian and Rangers fan, and a couple of things he said, I was like, you're talking to the wrong person. I'm not like that. So some people do hold on to it, which is a bit of a shame. And I know we're talking about Glasgow a lot, but it is a unique place, I think. I've been all over the world. I think Glasgow has its own, it's very different.
Yeah, I get quite homesick sometimes, and then for you see, you think about Glasgow and you reminisce of all of what it is and its history and its beauty, and then you go home for Christmas and you realise it's freezing. It's always wet. People are miserable because it's freezing and wet.
And dark.
Yeah. The sun just goes.
Yeah. First time I took Adri back, we were in winter. We're walking down Buchanan Street. She was like, is the sun setting right now? I was like, yeah, it looks like it. She's like, it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's about right. It's going down right. I used to work in a call centre just after uni, and you would get there at 8 o'clock, it'd be dark, and you'd leave at 5 o'clock and it'd be dark.
Yeah.
I got half an hour of daylight at lunchtime.
It's minging.
It's crazy. But I think it is a good place, but I'm glad I left. But it's interesting, I'm talking about the accent. I don't think we've slipped into it too much, but I'll need to listen back.
I was thinking, I hope there's some subtitles, because I've spent all weekend with my brother and my best mate from school as well, so we just went straight back into that. Oh, 100%. 100%. And this is the problem, like, sometimes I'm too Scottish for, not so much Vietnamese. It's always been Americans that have had the trouble, and the English. Yeah. What you saying, mate?
Yeah. It's always the English. We've got a cheeky comment. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of a Vietnam podcast. I'm just interrupting quickly to tell you something exciting that I'm doing on my other podcast, Smarter Podcasting. Now, you may or may not know that since I started this podcast, a Vietnam podcast, in 2019, I went on to found 7 Million Bikes podcast, and using all the skills and the tips and the tricks that I learned making this podcast and then others, my team and I actually help make podcasts worldwide. We've worked with over 60 podcasts, helped with thousands of episodes, millions of downloads, helped podcasts get to the top of the charts. So what I'm doing right now on Smarter Podcasting is I'm launching 2 offers right now. Now, they might not be for you. You're probably not listening to a Vietnam podcast because you want to make a podcast, but I assume you're listening to it because you love them, and maybe you want to make your own as well. So I have 2 special offers that I'm doing right now for just 2 people. The first one is the Podcast Launch Lab, and that's how you can get your podcast started in just 14 days. So the first one is the Podcast Launch Lab, and within 14 days, we can get you and your podcast started. We'll start off on day 1 with a deep dive strategy session with me. You'll get unlimited messaging support throughout this time as well. We'll do a momentum check-in call after 8 days, and then on day 14, we're going to prep your podcast and launch it. During this time, you will get a podcast planning checklist, an episode format template, a content calendar template, a growth tracking sheet, and a submission guide to make sure that you're on Apple and Spotify and all of those places as well. And to top it all off, after 90 days, you're going to get a follow-up call with me to see how it's going, making sure that all your systems are still working and where you should go next. So in just 14 days, you're going to walk away with 2 hours with me. You're going to have a clear, focused podcast concept that you're proud of. You're going to have all your gear sorted so you're not wasting time Googling or buying things that don't work. You'll have your show format, your intro, your outro, and all your trailers ready to go. You should have your first 3 episodes in progress or recorded, and a plan to launch on all platforms so that you can launch with confidence. So if you are interested in this, just go to my website, 7millionbikes.com/podcast-launch-lab. If you can't remember that, you can get it in the show notes. The second offer is for those of you who may be listening to this that already have a podcast, and that's called the Podcast Makeover. In 14 days, we're going to give your existing podcast a makeover to make it sound amazing. So day 1 is going to start with a kickoff call with me, just 30 minutes. So we'll discuss your goals, your pain points, your workflow, and your tech setup. We'll do a quick pulse check, see how everything's going and how your overall podcast presents itself. Then I'm going to do an audit of your existing podcast. And on day 4, I'm going to give you the feedback from that audit. Meaning then on day 7, I'm going to follow up with you to see if you've started to make these changes and make sure you refine them before you publish the next episode. Then on day 14, we're going to do our final evaluation. So we'll review your latest episode, see what's improved, and lock in what to keep doing and maybe what to stop. And we'll not just finish there. On day 90, we're going to have a follow-up call to make sure that you've kept on track, you kept that momentum up. We'll celebrate the wins and we'll plan the next 90 days. In the podcast makeover, you're going to walk away with a fix-it checklist, an audio editing quick wins list, branding and clarity tips, and growth levers tailored just for you. And just like in the last one as well, you get unlimited messaging to me for 14 days. You can just imagine that I'm in your pocket at all time and you can ask me anything you want. Even about Vietnam, I don't mind. If this is for you, then just go to 7millionbikes.com/podcast-makeover. And again, you can just go to the show notes, or if you just want to get in touch with me, it's neil@7millionbikes.com, or go to any of our social medias and send me a message, and I can help your podcast sound like a pro, or I can help you get your podcast started in the next 14 days. All right, let's get back to the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
But so then I've kind of, same with yours, I'm sure as well, kind of Americanized that a little bit, slowed down. It's like saying some things even now when I'm talking, you know.
I can hear you're pronouncing everything, you're enunciating
but
your
then,
words.
If I phone my brother back in Glasgow, he's like, why do you sound like an arsehole?
Yeah. The best one I was back home years ago, and one of my best mates, I saw him in the pub and he said, why do you speak like you're not from Glasgow? Or what was it he said? Why do you sound like you do? Oh no, sorry, let me say that again. What the fuck did he say? Oh yeah, okay. And he walked into the pub and he says, you don't need to speak to me like I don't speak English. And then the last time we were home, we had a Polish taxi driver. And so I immediately just slowed down the way I speak. I didn't speak in my full, normal, fast Glaswegian. I speak probably the same way I do now. You'll never guess what he said to me. Why are you talking to me like I'm a fucking retard? And I was like, oh, and Adrian was like nudging me. I was like, oh no, sorry, I slowed down how I speak. And he's like, I don't need to. And I was like, hey, he's a taxi driver. He probably hears every accent under the sun. He doesn't need me to like slow down.
I can't, in Glasgow taxi drivers there, that's when if you can understand the Glasgow cabbie, not coming from Glasgow, I think that's when you know you've reached your IELTS 9.0 or whatever. That should be the final boss level. Get in the back of a Glasgow cab and seeing if you can hold a conversation for the journey.
True. I did miss that. The last time I went back, I was in the back of a cab by myself and just talked to the cab driver the whole time. And I was like, I do miss this. I miss this just like talking non-stop. But what I was going to ask you was, one of the things that I've changed, not just my accent, and I was going to note when I go back and listen to this and when you hear it, I think what you'll notice is, if you're like me, there's the odd word that drops in. So I just did a video last week and I was just listening back to it, and there's a couple of words like, was it metal? When I hear it and I'm like, it just sounded so Scottish. Metal. Because I think maybe if I'm Americanizing it, it'd be like metal. But then just every now and again, there'll be a word that drops in. The rest of it, I'm like, I sound pretty neutral. I still get people like, oh, you sound so Scottish. I'm like, I don't. Like, trust me, I don't. If you thought I sounded so Scottish, you're going to be fucked when you go there. But then when you listen back, there's just the odd word and I'm like, oh.
See, I don't notice the Scottish words that I drop in, but I do notice the Americanisms, like, I'll fill up your water bottle. I hate myself.
Can't help it, yeah. Now, going back to being grown up in Glasgow, did you listen to the episode I did with Zan and Wayne up in Hanoi? And so he was using the word queer, and I was like, we had a conversation. I was like, am I allowed to use that? And he was like, yeah, as long as it's not derogatory, right? Like, as long as you're just saying, like, talking about it. But how would you like me to identify you? Because I guess there's different ways. Gay is okay. I know, so now it's the other end as well. Like, is that bad? Like, am I allowed to say, are you gay? Like, sometimes, I mean, I had this conversation even with, I don't know if you know Hayden Lowry, black guy from Canada. And I was like, we had a discussion about, can you call somebody black? And he was like, of course you can. It's just a description.
Yeah.
It's like, it's no offense to being like the black guy.
It sounds worse when you try and not say that, you know, like I'm thinking about my grandparents who, you know, try to be PC, but the way you kind of manipulate that, and it's like
I use it quite normally now, and I still feel a little bit inside me. And sometimes I see people react when I'll be like, "Oh, you know, the black guy," and they'll be like, "But I'm like, I know I'm not allowed to say this because he's told me like, as long as you're not." And it was the same I told was that I'm going to cut all of this out, right? So call you gay is okay, right? Yeah. Cause that's what I'm like. What do you say, right? So growing up in Glasgow, you're I was going to say obviously gay. It's not obviously gay. It's obviously gay to me because I know that you're gay. You're not obviously gay, but you're obviously gay to me because I know that. What was that like growing up in Glasgow? Because I mentioned to you earlier, for me, I'm a little bit older. It was definitely a different time. I've talked about it, and I don't know if I've told you that. I'm sure I have. I used to be homophobic. Did I tell you that? No. So I've talked about it on this podcast a lot, and it was going to America. I met someone who was bisexual, a guy who's bisexual, and I was like, he's just a fucking guy who's just cool. And I was like, you're an idiot. And he was part of that Rangers Celtic thing. I went to football games. Wasn't my family. I didn't come from a homophobic family or anything like that. But grandparents, they're older. They'd make them, I think they called Michael Barrymore a big poofter one time or something like that. Remember the TV presenter who was gay, and then he got charged with attempted murder or something like that. So there was a couple of negative comments. So anyway, I was homophobic for no real reason. I snapped out of it as soon as I went to America, and now I'm thankfully not at all. But I know that culture in Glasgow, from me growing up, was going to football anyway, very masculine. I didn't really know anyone in my school was gay, for sure. I know at least one person came out years later, but going through high school was totally different. Nobody came out. Now, from what I understand from like Gen Z, it's completely normal to come out at a younger age. You're kind of in between those two generations. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, I was overall quite lucky. Quite lucky. I remember I came out early as well. I was 14. I must have been 14 because it was my brother's 13th birthday. So I kind of stole the limelight from that a wee bit.
You still remember that I was fucking 13.
So I told my best friend in MSN. It was MSN Messenger back in the day.
ASL.
Someone said that. If you know what ASL means, you need to rest your knees. Check your back.
For me, it's rest my back. Yeah.
And I said to him, "Oh, don't tell anyone, but I might be bi." He said, "Oh, yeah, okay. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." Next day in school, "Craig, are you gay? Are you gay? Are you gay?" And at that point, I was like, I knew I was. And I could either do this now, rip off the plaster, or deny it. Like a teenage gay. Like, no. So then I said, you know what? Yes, I am. And of course, that news spread like wildfire. And not when I was at school. I think there was a couple of guys who were friends. I think they kind of came out in their final year when I was sort of starting. So it wasn't like a big taboo thing. And on the whole, I think about 90%. You're always going to get bullied in high school for something. And just so happens that being gay was quite an easy one to. That's like, we don't have to think about that or do anything clever with it. That's sorted.
I got bullied for looking like Damien from The Shining. So I just got called Damien like repeatedly, and it's just so stupid. Now I look back, I'm like, why did that bother?
Yeah. When I met my mate last weekend, and we're just reminiscing of all the stupid nicknames we gave people in school for doing something just so redundant, just a tiniest little thing. I can't think of any off the top of my head now, though.
But we had a similar one, but it wasn't even a nickname. It was just his name. So the poor guy, I doubt he's ever listening to this, but Alan McMillan, if you're ever listening to this, people would just say, and I don't remember if I ever did it, but we'd be on like a bus to the swimming pool or on a school trip, and people would just be like, Alan McMillan, Alan McMillan. Just saying his name, but saying a stupid voice, and you say it repeatedly, and you could see it bothered him, and it was just another way of bullying someone. I was just like, now as an adult, you're like, that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you had a couple? I can't remember any of them now off the top of my head, but it's just, you do one thing that can just ruin your high school life.
Yeah, for sure.
And it could be, my other nickname I got was Kukas.
Kukas?
So when you apply for uni in Scotland, you have to apply through UCAS.
Yeah, right.
So we're sitting in this big assembly, we're getting lectured about the UCAS application. I applied for music college, which is the same kind of thing, but it was called QCAS. So I'm sitting in this assembly, and I put my hand up. I'm like, Miss, excuse me, what about QCAS? And this is the funniest thing that the other 300 kids had heard.
That's sorted. I want to call you QCAS now. It's a great name.
I get called QCAS for the rest of my school life. I even get a QCAS in the back of my levers hoodies. Just for that one
Yeah.
question.
I love it. That's amazing. Then was it partly because you were in an academy? So you were in a nice, I imagine a nice academy. I went to Thomas Muir High School, which is a non-denominational school. And I was in this, we were in Bishopbriggs, Spam Valley. And I didn't really explain what that meant. So it was my parents' best thing they ever did, moved to a beautiful suburb, beautiful house that they could not afford. We always had food on the table, but we couldn't afford that house. And maybe the wrong decision, but ultimately the right decision. Partly so I can go to a good school. So even though Thomas Muir High School is not the best school in the world, it was still a good school. But as you probably know, Bishopbriggs is right next to like Barmulloch and Ballonock and Posso and all of these really quite rough and bad neighbourhoods, Posso especially. And we took in a certain amount of those kids as well. So I went to school with some people who lived in Bishopbriggs, came from really nice middle-class families. Mine were more working-class family, but some really nice middle-class families. We're going to go into university to be a doctor and a lawyer. But then we also had these absolute bams that spat in my face because I dared to tackle them in football, things like this. And I can't imagine in my school coming out as gay, but I'm a bit older, but still I can't imagine coming out as gay would have been very well received. Maybe my memory's bad. But I feel like with a lot of those rough people, it would have been bad, I think.
We had the same at school. A real sort of culture of bullying that had been reported by the press as well, because people do have that sort of idea that, you know, Lindsay Academy, blah 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 blah. It's one of the nicest schools in that area, but it wasn't. There's a real problem with bullying. And I don't think that's got to do with different people from different classes. It was a pretty brutal place to be if you weren't in like a kind of social tier, I would say, which I luckily was, I think. And had I not been, then I think it'd have been a different story.
It's interesting because, yeah, you're saying about Lindsay Academy has that reputation. So we were friends with people from Torrance, which is kind of in between places and closer to these beautiful mountains. It is literally like a little village. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Beautiful, that's another little American one, isn't it? Beautiful.
Beautiful. See, it just comes out. I don't even think about it. What would you say in Scottish? Beautiful?
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Pure beautiful.
Pure beautiful. That's pure dead beautiful. And so we were talking to Martin Cappy, our friend, still friends with him to this day, and we learned about the bullying from their school, and it was next level to ours. Theirs was more physical bullying. Ours was more name calling. Like, I don't really remember anyone getting in physical fights. It was pretty rare. They would do things like get metal rulers and hit your shins with it. Yeah. You do that as well? We'd never heard that. We only learned about that when we were out of school, because we befriended him kind of after school age. So we were kind of university, and he was telling us they would do things like grab a leg each and then pull you up against a lamppost.
Oh, see, that was always an old wifey's tale. That one, the lamppost, one leg each, and the balls in the post.
Yeah. I'd never seen it, but that's what he said. The kind of stuff that they did.
Yeah.
I was like,
next
level.
We had a lot of, if you like sort of bend down behind someone and then push them back and then trip over you.
It's funny though. But that's as far as the physical bullying went.
Yeah, there was from the bullying point of view, it wasn't physical, but we had fights. Oh, great fights out in the rugby field, because where our school was. There's
the difference. They played rugby. We didn't play rugby at our school. That is the difference. Even though rugby is so violent, that's the top sport. We didn't even. I don't even remember seeing a rugby ball. Never mind playing it.
Yeah, that you're right enough there. So out in the rugby field,
as we were sticking our fingers up each other's arses, that's the thing. The rugby is
in the scrum. I mean, then that's people always thought, I played rugby at school. They're like, oh, you're just playing that because you're gay. It's like, no.
Did that really happen?
Yeah.
That's so anyone kind of wondering what we're laughing about. If you don't know, there's a myth, which it's not a myth.
It's not a myth.
I've never played rugby, as I just said, that they would shove their fingers up the other player's arse.
There's at the end of the game, there's always that kind of like if you were, I can't remember what way it was around, if you're playing home or away anyway, the other team would make an arch and you'd walk under their arch, and then hands would just come and all sorts of things. You probably wouldn't get away with it these days. Yeah. But yeah, lots of fights. When we weren't playing rugby, there was lots of fights in the grass field. Because we lived, the school was kind of in the land of the Toby Jug, which was Lenzie's gang, and the Hoods was Kirky. So there was a bit of overlap there, a bit of gang warfare. Probably nothing like America's gang warfare, but it's when you're teenagers, that was like, whoa.
I'm just laughing. Lindsay against Kirkintilloch. It's not really like Postle against Balmulloch, is
No.
it? Where they're like probably like literally chibbing each other. But anyway, moving on from gang warfare in Glasgow, let's move to Vietnam. So, how did you end up in Vietnam? Then you've been here for 7 years.
I came. I think similar to you. I planned to do 6 months.
Right.
Yeah, planned to do 6 months.
Everyone that's been here for a long time is all the same story.
One-
You never meet anyone that's like, I came here for 10 years.
Yeah,
No, but I've never met anyone who said that.
I came for 6 months and then planned to do like Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, that kind of bit of Southeast Asia, and then never left Vietnam. Finished my TEFL, got a job teaching English, and that was your kind of get in for the year, and that was 7 years ago.
So, what were your first thoughts when you landed?
I'll never forget coming out that airport. It's hectic, absolutely, and it's just you get that blast of heat in your face, the tooting, everyone's waiting for their family with the signs, and you're like, oh, I don't know where to go, what to do. You want to do a U-turn and get back in the plane. And then it was just hectic. It was so unlike any other place I've ever been. The busyness, the smells, the lights, and then when you're walking down Boy Vien for the first time. Do you remember your first time?
Not specifically, but we did teacher training at the end of Boy Vien, so we actually spent quite a lot of time during the day and night there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's just sensory overload. And I think that happens still quite often. Even like going on holiday or coming back, but you see it from a different point of view. You're kind of like, I'm home now. I love that.
Do you think it's addictive?
100%. I think especially what I like is once you've been here for so long, you can negotiate and navigate it all with ease. You feel a bit of an expert, a bit of a guru in the subject. That'd be my mastermind subject. It's how to navigate the Vietnamese roads.
So I think I've accepted over the last few years that I'm here as an expat and I'm never going to assimilate into the local population. And there's this thing you hear, and people, and I've had this discussion before, this discussion of expat versus immigrant. To me, it's not a race thing. It's very, very clear. An expat is somebody who leaves their hometown, home country for a set amount of time and they intend to go back. Even though I've been here 10 years, I still probably intend to go back. An immigrant is when you leave your hometown with no intention to go back home. You have literally emigrated to another culture. So let's not get into that debate of expat versus immigrant. I still call myself an expat. I'm not an immigrant. I've also come to terms with the fact that it is, well, one, I don't speak the language, but even if I did, it would be almost impossible to assimilate into the local culture. It's just not my culture. I hang out with British people who look like me, people who are about the same age as me. In my time here, I've never once been invited to dinner by a Vietnamese family or a Vietnamese friend, anything like that, apart from maybe a dinner, like come out for Tet dinner or something like that. So for the last few years, it's weird. I've kind of like in my own little bubble here that I love it here. I love everything about it. I appreciate that I'm kind of in a bubble looking at it from the outside in.
I mean, my boyfriend's Vietnamese, so I have the opposite of that, I guess.
Well, that's what I was going to ask
and
you.
I think, so I do that part of the culture as well, which I love.
Well, tell me more about that, because I've just said I don't know anything about that side of it. So what is that like assimilating in, and as a gay man as well?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's an artist. He's an artist and a very sort of accepting family and friend group who are all quite liberal and arty. So that's great. And they're from the north as well, and that's traditionally a bit more conservative. I know I've got a lot of gay friends and who have moved from the north to the south to be themselves. They feel they couldn't really be their authentic selves. at home in the north, so they come down south. So to have a family that's supportive from the north is, I'm sure it's not unique, but it's very special. It's very special. And yeah, we go out to, I think food is the big bringer together. And I'm not fussy at all, and I'm quite lucky for that, because we can go out, and I go out with his Vietnamese friend group, whether we're going to a house or whether we're going to like a restaurant or whether they're coming to mine, and just have nice food and drinks. And I think that's quite a universal thing, but it just so happens in Vietnam that sometimes that food is not for the Western palate. Bún đào mắm tôm. I love it.
Oh no, I like the bun dao part. Yeah. The mam tom part, you can keep that.
So for the folks at home,
explain what that is.
It is for a sort of grey purple fermented shrimp fish sauce that...
You lost me at grey purple. I mean, food should be grey purple, but
it's not the most appetising colour, but it's pretty stonky. It's got to put it mildly.
It's a good Scottish word.
I remember
honking.
Pure honking.
Pure honking.
And you can mix that with some like lime and sugar and chilies. But my boyfriend was the one who got me properly into that. We have it for lunch probably once a week. But yeah.
What about the only thing I've really tried, I think that I not regretted, but like I tried some intestine one time, which it's not like terrible. It's just rubber. It's just literally just chewing rubber. I was like, I don't want to eat this. I don't want this in my mouth.
I think when you think it, if you didn't know it was that, there's that kind of like.
I actually didn't know what it was.
Okay.
So I was at a school teaching, and they were having a big, I think they were having like a cooking competition. So each group were doing a different dish, and they're like, "Teacher, come and try this." Tried a bit, and as soon as I bit into it, and then I knew, I was like, and then I kind of thought about what it looked like, and I was like, "This is intestine." Yeah, and I felt really bad because it was their dish, but I had to. I ate the broth a bit, but not the...
No, I love all the organy bits. The only thing that I probably wouldn't go near is I think it's called, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, Thai can, which is like the blood soup of the whatever animal it comes from. But it's not like, we've got black pudding in Scotland, which is dried and congealed and dark and peppery and tasty. I think this is just like a bowl of blood. With wee bits on top. I think I'm okay in that.
Yeah, I've seen other dishes like on the best ever food review show. It was like pig's ear in a salad.
Love it.
I think that looks quite delicious.
It's great if you Demi. Have you been to Demi Brewing?
No, I've tried their beer, but not to the brewery.
They do that's a great dish there. Oh, I need to go back there. Actually,
so what kept you in Vietnam then? I asked you, do you think it's addictive? The reason I asked that question is because you mentioned something I think is true for a lot of Saigonese. I don't know about the whole country. Vietnamese as well, from what I've spoken to them. And I'd be interested to hear your opinion and from what you know from your boyfriend, even though he's from the north. And I know for expats, the thing about Saigon, and that's why I asked, is it addictive? You do need to leave sometimes, I think. You need to get away. But then that's where that addictiveness comes in, because you're like, I want to get back. Or when you do get back, you're like, this is amazing. And the amount of people, I'm sure you're similar as well, the amount of expats over the years that I've met that have left and then come back because they can't stay away.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about like long-term leaving?
I've known some people to long-term leave.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly talking about even for myself, every few months or every few weeks.
You need to get away.
I've got to get out of here. Like, we're going away glamping this weekend just down south by about an hour.
Yeah, we were off to Mainé for a couple of days.
Yeah, you got to get away to Mainé or Vung Tau or Dalat.
Because it can be it is so busy, and it can be so suffocating and hot and noisy and polluted, full of traffic, that it's so important. Because if you have a bad day at work and then get stuck in traffic on the way home, arrive home in a foul mood, and it's hard to come back from that. So really important to get away, and especially just to the beach. If I'm feeling homesick, Dalat is my little safe
Have some
space.
Dalat wine and pretend it's Buckfast.
We did a wine tasting in Dalat, and we thought Dalat wine's not our favourite, so we'll get the gold package, the exclusive package. Absolutely fucking minging.
And does your boyfriend feel the same way? Or does his family or friends or people you know, even the Vietnamese people, feel the same, that they need to take it out sometimes?
I think so. I mean, he's been up in Hoi An for a while. He's coming back tonight, I think. Yeah, he's been up in Hoi, and it's exactly that thing. You need to just get out to space, change of energy, change of scene, and Hoi An's great for that as well. The minute you step out the old town into sort of An Bang area, if I could get a job up there, I'd move there in a heartbeat. Oh, because I've been to Hoi An a million times, but I've always been in the sort of like the tourist conveyor belt around the old town. I was like, oh, it's nice to see you once. But then the last time I was up a few weeks ago for a burn supper, Hoi An had their first burn supper. It was lovely. We stayed outside the city and it was just beautiful. Rice fields and buffalo and beaches. It was gorgeous. So nice. And I'd never seen, and I feel like I've wasted so many trips up there because I've just been going rounds, like seeing the same tourist tat with families all wearing the same outfit, you know?
Yeah. Well, Craig, this has been amazing. I'm glad we finally got to do this. Thank you so much for coming on a Vietnam podcast. What I want to do is keep talking to Craig, but we're going to switch to just full Scottish. And if it works, we're going to put it as a bonus episode that you can just listen to. But thank you for tuning into this episode. Remember, leave a review, rate it, and the best thing that you can do is share it with someone else who also loves Vietnam, who are thinking of visiting here or live here as well. That would really, really help. Thank you so much. And Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers. I've been podcasting for years, and the number one tool that helped me become an award-winning podcast producer is the script. No matter whether you're a tech wizard or a beginner like me, the script can help you with everything you need to start your own podcast. If you want to start your own podcast today, download the script. The link is in the show notes. It's my number one recommendation to help you create a podcast easily, smoothly, and it has heaps of AI features that make your podcasting even better. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Let's get back to the episode.